Double or nothing, baby!
HyperdriveMTG.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? HyperdriveMTG here. I'm your host, Austin, and today I'm going to show you a TIMMYTASTIC list for Krark the Thumbless and Kodama the East Tree as partner commanders, showing you guys how to build a big, awesome, splashy Gruul Spellslinger deck list with a spice of creatures right now. Let's get right into it.
Let's first talk about our commanders, Krark the Thumbless and Kodama of the East Tree. Krark the Thumbless is a 1-colorless, 1-red legendary creature goblin wizard. That is a 2/2 that reads, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. It has partner, so you can have 2 partners as your commanders. Kodama of the East Tree is a 4-colorless, double green, legendary creature, spirit, 6/6, with reach that reads, whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. It also has partner. Now, together, these might not make that much sense, but the main commander we will be utilizing with this deck is Krark the Thumbless. The idea of our deck is to cast big, scary, game-winning spells to get us an immense amount of value and tokens and various other crazy things that green and red give us. And we just do really bombastic, TIMMYTASTIC plays to win the game and blow our opponents out. Kodama of the East Tree mostly is in the deck so that we can cast really big spells like Last March of the Ents and get immediate value, as well as ramping us in several ways too, but like when we put lands onto the battlefield so that we can put more lands onto the battlefield if we have extra lands in our hand. Most of our big game-ending spells are ones that produce a large amount of creatures that are really too scary or too difficult for our opponents to deal with. Some notable spells that we like to copy with Krark are Genesis Wave, Sylvanas Stampede, of course Last March of the Ents, and Tooth and Nail are all cards that are really amazing when they're copied. The things we're going to be getting when we copy these kinds of spells are Big Scary Eldrazi's, Avenger of Zendikar, and Craterhoof, and my personal favorite, which I've been trying out in this deck, Surrak and Goreclaw, which can give our non-token creatures haste with the combos that we are doing while copying the spells. For a quick story about how Surrak and Goreclaw are an amazing card in this deck, there was this one time I was testing this deck. I had 2 other players in my game, and I cast a Last March of the Ents really early and only drew 3 cards off it. The next turn, I followed it up with a Defense of the Heart, and then on the very next turn after that, Defense of the Heart triggered because one of my opponents had 3 or more creatures. And then I got Eternal Witness and Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, getting back Last March of the Ents with Eternal Witness. And then I cast Last March of the Ents with Krark out, got a copy of Last March of the Ents, and between the 2 Last March of the Ents, I drew 24 cards because Kozilek was out because it was the highest toughness among my creatures. I drew 24 cards. I put a whole bunch of creatures on the battlefield, including Surrak and Goreclaw, and that ended up winning me the game because I had so many creatures on board with haste and a huge amount of value, and one of those creatures ended up being Craterhoof Behemoth, so the table was just really, really dead. The last cards I want to mention in this deck tech are Call Forth the Tempest, Seed Time, and Soulfire Eruption. Call Forth the Tempest is basically always a one-sided board wipe in whenever we cast it, and if we copy it, it is most certainly so. It also gets us a huge amount of value because if we successfully copy it, we cascade 4 times, and then we one-sided wipe our opponent's board. Seed Time is an amazing anti-blue card that everyone should be playing in their green decks. If your deck has a very prevalent amount of blue players, this card is fantastic. So imagine you're doing your thing, casting big scary spells, you're copying all this stuff, and all of a sudden they counter your spells. Well, guess what? In response, you're going to always have a lot of mana. You can just cast Seed Time, and if you successfully copy it, you get 2 extra turns. You time stretch for 2 mana. This is very powerful, and I've done this once, and it's an amazing play to be had when it happens. Also, Soulfire Eruption basically wins you the game. So what the card does is choose a number of target creatures, planeswalkers, and/or players. For each of them, exile the top card of your library. Then Soulfire Eruption deals damage equal to the card's converted mana cost to that permanent or player. You may play the exiled cards until the end of your next turn. Your stuff is really big in this deck. This is always going to do a lot of damage and is probably going to end the game if it's successfully copied. And for anything else, make sure to check out the deck list in the description. It's right there if you need it on my Moxfield link.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the deck. Hope you enjoy going double or nothing, hardcore, all the way with giant, big, splashy, TIMMYTASTIC spells in Gruul. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, stay hyper.